Hello, welcome back to Mark's House and Garden UK. Today I'm going to have a go at air layering or propagating in the air a smoke tree or a smoke bush. This is a Cotinus and it doesn't look much at the moment, but trust me, come spring, summer, that is covered in very beautiful purple leaves, and then it erupts into this blossom which looks like clouds of smoke. And there's a very specific reason why I want to propagate this particular bush, and that is because of its colour. As you probably know, if you've been following my channel, I'm creating a Jurassic jungle garden by making some new ponds around the outskirts of my wildlife pond, and that's created these mounds over here. Now on the inside of these mounds I'm planting ferns and Jurassic jungle type plants, but on the outside of this particular mound facing the open garden I want to develop a theme of purple and deep red plants. So I've got some photinias in there, I'm going to add some dogwood, I'm going to add some Cotinus if this takes. So today's job really is to try and do some air layering. Now I've read the RHS guide to air layering before I've attempted this job, and I'll put a link to that guide in the description box below this video, but I'm going to show you how I would do it on this Cotinus. I'm going to do two, so hopefully I'll end up with two new Cotinus shrubs. And the benefit of doing air layering is you're leaving the branch on the plant so it continues to get sustenance and nutrients from the roots of the plant, but at the same time it develops its own roots, and by doing it that way you can tackle a much bigger cutting, is my feeling. So I will end up with some quite mature shrubs with a root ball within 12 months, whereas if I did a cutting or a softwood cutting, I might have to start with a small one and wait for it to grow. So it's kind of a way of accelerating the process. So this is my Cotinus, and it looks like bare twigs at the moment. It's not an evergreen plant, but it does have kind of a ruby red kind of hue to its branches, but you can see here it's already starting to break out into these lovely purple leaves, and that is why I want to air layer this plant. I'm going to choose branches that are quite robust already and which are pointing upwards. Well, firstly, let me show you the kit that I've put together to do this air layering job. So I've got two pieces of polythene here. This is that heavy duty polythene. It's kind of opaque, you can see through it, and that's a benefit because if it does root I'll be able to see the roots developing. Those pieces are a little bit bigger than I need, so I've brought my scissors which will allow me to cut them down to size when the job's done. I've also brought some string, so I might need to cut the string with the scissors too. I've got a jug of compost. Now the RHS say use sphagnum moss, damp sphagnum moss, and my lawn is full of moss, so I could have done that, but I'm actually going to use compost. I've seen other people use compost. And I've got a very sharp craft knife, and you'll see what that's for in a moment. So let's get into the bush and do some air layering. So here I am at the back of the Cotinus, the smoke tree or the smoke bush. I'm going to do two of these. I'll do one with the camera at this distance. It will involve some fumbling because I'm not very dexterous when it comes to doing delicate finger work. And then I'll do one at close quarters so you can see the process done twice. One at a distance and one up close. And anything I learn from the first one, of course, I'll transfer to doing the second one. It's a question of having a go and seeing how it works. So if you want to know how this turns out, obviously subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and I will put an update to this video at the end of this one. But there's absolutely no reason why this shouldn't work if you follow the right procedure. And if you're going to be spending £24–25 on a Cotinus or smoke tree shrub, that's £50 of the plants effectively for free, so it's worth doing. Certainly worth having a go at. Right, here's my kit. I'll just place this on the floor near my feet. I'm going to need to wrap a piece of polythene around this branch, and it's going to need to overlap. I've chosen an old wood piece of branch here. It's not last year's, it's the year before's growth. It's about the size of a large pencil or a small dowel, and it's bare. And that will eventually become the plant above it, hopefully. So the first thing we're going to do is just clear a bit of space. I'll actually use my scissors for that, just to clear a bit of space around where I'm working so that things are not getting in the way. I've chosen one at the back of the bush so it's not visible when the bush comes into flower, so hopefully it won't be an ugly looking thing into the summer. So that is going to need to be wrapped around there so that it can overlap. And then I will tie it tight at the bottom with string. And then I will cut into the branch, fill it with compost, water it, and then tie it at the top with string. And it's as simple as that. So let's get to it. And you can observe me doing this. I'm learning as I do it, so it might look a little bit all fingers and thumbs, but we'll have a go. So let's cut a bit of string and tie this onto the branch at the bottom. I'll tie it up there, but I'll slide it down out of the way. Now, I'm taking a piece of string slightly longer than I need. And the other thing I'm going to do at this point is, because these gloves are wonderful gloves, but they just don't help when you're trying to do delicate work like this. So there's one piece of string. I'll hang that on a branch where I can get to it. And I'll just cut a second piece of string. This is garden twine. I suppose you could use string of any nature. And on the RHS guidance, they say use waterproof sticky tape, which I've never even heard of before. Here's my piece of polythene. Let's wrap it around this branch a few times, loosely at the top, so that I can get some compost into the top of it. And it is overlapped, so it won't burst open when I start to fill it with compost. Now that, I think, will do the job. So what I'll do first is Right, I'm thinking if I tie that tight now there, I won't be able to slide it down. So I'll slide it down now, and then I'll make the cut using the sharp craft knife. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take off two of these branches using my sharp craft knife. There's one. There's two. I'll take three off. And that gives me a wound. Now I'm going to slice in at an angle pointing towards the tip underneath that branch and underneath that one, and that creates a wound. Now, in order to give this the best chance of success, you are supposed to use rooting powder. I've done jobs in the past where I've used rooting powder and it's never really made any difference, so I'm going to have a go without. So again, we'll see how that works out. So now let's slide that up there, make sure it's got a bit of overlap, and then let's tie it tight using this string. One of my subscribers the other day quite validly said, "Mark, I want to see you doing stuff, not talking about stuff." So rather than talk about all the projects I've got on at the go at the moment, I'm actually doing something, and it is a job I wanted to do. So let's tie that around there quite tightly. Now that branch, whilst it's damaged, it's got an injury. That injury will promote root growth, but it is still attached to the main tree, so it's still getting sustenance. So the next thing you have to do is check where the wounds are, slide it up just below them, and then I shall get some compost in the top, at which point I'm now going to put my gloves back on so that my hands don't get compost all under my fingernails. Gloves on, compost at the ready, and now I need to get some compost into that. It's going in definitely, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, it's filling up quite nicely. And it doesn't have to be a lot, it just needs to kind of stay damp and promote root growth, so that'll do for now. I'll keep that for the second one due in a moment. I should tie that round, pat it in a bit with my fingers, pat it down a bit, and now I'm just going to squeeze it so that I know it's got contact with the trunk of the tree, and it definitely has. I'm going to leave a bit of spare polythene at the top, and now I'm going to tie that. The spare polythene at the top is to create a funnel so that when I get this tied off I can pour some water in, and I'll be able to see that water through this slightly opaque polythene going down to the trunk. Nature is an amazing thing really when you think about it, how it kind of has evolved these adaptations to propagate itself. It's kind of nature's own survival mechanism. You know, I suppose if this happened in the wild and this plant got damaged, it's a way of the plant producing an offspring that can carry on with the sort of the species. My original piece of string snaps. I've just got another piece off, and I shall just tie it. Oh, it snaps again. I think this old twine is a little bit past it, and again I've got my gloves back on here, which is making things a little bit cumbersome. Quite happy with that. That's a nice compact bit of compost around that trunk. I'm going to get a little jug of water now and fill that up with water so that I know it's wet. I should have probably brought the water in behind the bush when I started, but you live and learn. I've seen these at Kew Gardens, these air layering systems, and I went to Kew Gardens a couple of times last year and I did a video on it, so if you want to know about Kew Gardens and have a look around it, I did a walking tour of Kew Gardens, and I'll tag it at the end of this one. So that is well and truly squidgy and moist inside there. I can feel the water. I'll just massage it slightly. I'm now going to reinforce that string with my new string and then do another one on this branch at close quarters, and I'll talk through it as I go so you can get a close-up. And again, if you want to see how all this turns out, subscribe and hit the notifications bell, and I will provide you with several updates. I've got to now wait until I see root growth in that bag, which is going to be difficult because I'm not the most patient of people. Right, let's get on to the second one. Let's find a suitable branch. Now on this occasion, I've gone for a limb of the tree, which is on the opposite side of the bush, so I feel as if I'm spreading the stress from one side to the other. And here is the limb that I'm going to do the air layering system on. There it is. I've cut the branches from around it, and now I'm going to wound underneath those. And when you do this, be careful that you don't create a complete ring underneath or all the way around this branch, because if the ring, it stops any goodness getting up the bark, and the plant will require that passageway of goodness to go up. So don't completely ring it because you'll just kill it. So there we go, a slit into the bark around underneath here. Now I'm doing two of these, so even if only one of them survives, I've got a result in my opinion. And actually if neither of them survive, it's cost me nothing, so it really doesn't matter. Here's our piece of polythene, which is probably a bit big, so I'll cut that in half. And let's get some string on it around the base here. So at this point I shall take my gloves off because they're not helping. I hope if you're watching this, you're taking some encouragement from the fact that I'm doing a bit of a bodge job, because I'm just not very, when it comes to being dexterous with my fingers. I just don't seem to have those skills. I see these people who do artwork and needlecraft, and I just don't have that level of patience, I'm afraid. So there's the cavity where the root cutting is going to be, or the air layering cutting is going to be. So let's get some compost in there. And then let's shake it down, down it goes into there. I'm being aware that that's where the damage is, so that's where the soil has to be. We've got now some nice compost inside there now, so what we'll do now is give it a splash, a drink. That's lovely and wet now. No one can claim that has not been soaked. I can feel that it's squidgy and wet, and that's a good thing, because once it starts to take roots, it will drink all that water that's in there, and I might have to start giving it more. But once I start to see roots out here, it'll be the time when I'll be able to think about cutting the bottom off, pruning the top off a bit, and then planting it into the ground. Let's tie that off at the top again with our string. My dad was a butcher, and I used to watch him roll joints in his shop, and he was brilliant. So I wonder if I've got my lack of dexterity from my mum's side of the family. And my mum used to make the most delicious cheese and onion pies, and by the time they'd baked, all the cheese had run out, and they were just basically onion pies. And she'd probably be watching this, and I should be laughing, hopefully, and she knows I love her. So there we go. Another air layering root cutting on the stem. So there we go. 2 wonderful air layered propagation attempts on this Cotinus smoke tree. And if I were to be stood here in a month's time, you wouldn't be able to see me, because this bush is about to erupt in thousands of beautiful circular purple leaves, which will then be followed by those lovely blossoms which look like clouds of smoke. I think that's why it's called a smoke tree. And this is a purple tree which is going in my purple themed border. Now there's another point about this. This is for shrubs that don't take easily by standard cuttings, and you're giving it a helping hand by leaving the vegetation on the bush. Apparently you can do this in autumn or spring. Evergreens it's best to do in the spring. Deciduous you can do in either autumn or spring, and I've taken that from the RHS guidance, which I've told you about and I've referenced, and I've put a link to the RHS guidance to doing this in the description box below this video. So use what I've done as a kind of hand-fisted demonstration, but do read the guidance as well, and good luck with your air layering, and don't forget, come back in 6 months for an update. Bye for now.